Emily Elizabeth, and I'm the host of the What Fulfills You podcast, a show for and about individuals always seeking to be their best selves. On this show, we talk all about building the mindset, finding the right careers, creating meaningful relationships, and so much more. Welcome to the What Fulfills You podcast. Well, Jade, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I'm excited to talk about our lifestyles because I told you before, my friend sent me your TikTok and was like, you guys have a very similar work hard, play hard mentality. And I was creeping. I'm like, that's accurate. Yeah. That's accurate. And you're happy into me. Yeah. So I love that. But before we get into everything, can you share a brief background of everything? I always like to paint a picture, especially because there's young girls that listen, maybe pre-college, through college, and then a little bit after, because I think that's kind of those prime years that really shape us as we have hit our mid-20s.
Yeah, for sure. I actually went to boarding school in Boston, before college, and I've always been very I had the option to go to school near me when I was growing up where I grew up, but just I really liked the idea of being super independent and living away from home. Nice. And then ended up going to Georgetown where I did I was in their School of Foreign Service, which is their international affairs program. But I really liked business related things. And I thought, I was like, oh, it's basically international business things is what I was kind of doing. But loved DC and loved being just I really, college for me was a time, I feel a lot of people have mixed not feelings, but some people don't love their college experience. Right. I loved my college experience. I think in high school I was always very shy. Okay. And I think in college, and especially the first year out of college, was where I actually came out of my shell.
Yeah. Were you in a sorority?
I was, but sororities were really not big at Georgetown. Okay. It wasn't really. I dropped my sorority, I think my junior year. It was not they were only 2 sororities there. Got it. Really, okay. Small. It was really just your friends, and it was interesting because at Georgetown it was very much club, not nightclub, but club culture. Got it. There were different I was the head of the investment club. Oh, okay. It was very. You started early. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. And then so I was super finance heavy. It ended up. So I actually went out my 2 summers, my last 2 summers of college. I interned in New York, at a bank, and did finance, and that was what I did. Actually, coming into New York as well. I've been in New York since I graduated college. Okay. And my first job out of college, I was working at JP Morgan as a derivatives trader, which is very different than what I do now. Yeah, holy shit. I like to joke that I just keep doing dumber and dumber things. That's my career path. It's just my gosh. Losing brain cells. But I love that. So that I did that for a little bit over a year full time, after college. Okay. Realized I always I had this inner being of wanting to be a quantitative person. I was I like numbers and math, and then when I got there full time, I was the only non-MIT math major on my desk. Okay. And I was you guys like math a lot more than I do. Okay. Okay. Wait, did you major in math though? No, my major's very weird. Science, technology, and international affairs. Oh, was the name of my major. Okay. So it was I did computer science and international affairs. Shit. Okay. It was very very weird. It does not really coordinate to what I do now. Yeah. But basically after a year, I was okay, this is not the vibe at all. Okay. But did you meet hot finance guys? I've always been curious. I'm not gonna lie. No. Everyone I worked with was. I don't want to be mean, but one, they were much older, and I think for me that is actually why, because I left so early, and so I was just when I knew I was gonna leave was when I saw my MD at the time's life, and I was I do not want that. That is not. I was and that was. A lot of people complain about the day-to-day. I was in trading, so it wasn't quite. It was really early. I was getting into the office at 7 a.m. Okay. But I would also leave at 7. It was 7 to 7, which in finance eyes isn't that bad.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
So I didn't actually hate the day-to-day.
Okay.
But what I hated was being like, I'm working hard for something I don't want.
Okay.
And that was when I was like, when I realized that, when that clicked in my head, where I was like, you're working hard for something you don't even want. That was when I was like, I got to get out fast.
Okay.
And so I think for that reason, I've also never really been into finance, guys, because I see like, I'm like, I had like the opportunity to do what you're doing. And I was like, absolutely not. So it's like, doesn't impress me as much to like, I like a guy who like I think it's very like twofold too. I think it's guys who if a guy is like, I really am into finance, like, and I want to do this, and like, this is why I'm so into it. I'm like, yes, like that.
Because
he's
passionate.
Because he's passionate and has a path. If he did it because it's good money and like everyone else is doing it, so I figured I'd do it. Vomit.
Yes, I agree to that. Yeah, it's so important for me, especially as an entrepreneur who does various things that I enjoy, like podcasting being one of them. I feel like I need a partner that shares a similar passion in whatever he does. Like the same kind of
it doesn't have to be cool.
Right,
like,
exactly. But like you love the
damn thing. They don't have to be successful now. Like I just want them to like be like working towards something that they like. You know?
Okay.
But then was like no to that. And then worked at actually like a growth marketing agency that worked with a bunch of direct-to-consumer brands to build them out. And really the reason why I did that, because I wanted to go into something to do with startups, but realized, hey, I remember my like path after JP, I was like, while I was still there trying to find something else, was basically, let me DM I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just basically like cold LinkedIn DM'd like as many people as I could who were a year out of college, because that was important to me, because I was like, maybe I just hate this because everyone hates their job a year out of college. Okay. So you're just asking for too much. This is a normal rite of passage. Right. So let's just see if everyone else is hating their life as much as I hate my life. I love that. And like not everyone. And so I messaged one girl who had actually been in the same major as me at Georgetown. And she was working at this marketing agency, but it wasn't a traditional, it had been actually started by a bunch of finance and consulting people who wanted to use numbers for marketing and paid ads and stuff like that. So it was less brandy and more like, okay, how can we like spend this number of dollars to get this amount of sales, and taking a very data approach. And I love that. And they worked with really cool brands. Like we worked with like Glossier, Birchbox, Casper, like the agency got their name when they were like the first ones to work with Dollar Shave Club. So like all those guys. Okay. And I was like, okay, that's great, because I can I don't know what I want to do yet, but I want to see how a lot of different businesses are like being built. Okay. And then while I was there was actually when I started what I kind of like work on my main business now, which is 4am Skin, which is an all-in-one minimal skincare brand for people who are out at 4am, really built for anyone who feels like they want to have a luxurious research-backed skincare routine, but can also be simple. Like we felt that when you looked down a skincare aisle, it's so backwards in comparison to a lot of other industries where you see people's skin, like the more things someone had products in their bathroom, people are like, like that's luxury, like that's like luxurious. And I was like, that's actually like, that's absolutely not what I want. Like I want to have two things that I do every day and it works. And like that's my thing. And I feel like it's a nice routine. And so we wanted to make all in one something that you could feel luxurious about and good about. Okay. As well as have a fun brand.
Yeah. Okay, let me like backtrack a little bit. So at what point while you were working at this agency did you come up with this idea? I know you have a co-founder as well. Like how did that conversation come about?
Yeah, so it's interesting because skincare was really not my thing. Yeah. And it kind of started, the initial thoughts around the brand actually started back when I was at JP, and that I remember, so my co-founder, we met at Georgetown, Sabrina. She was like a skincare junkie, and she was pre-med, ended up going to Georgetown Medical School in the hopes of becoming a dermatologist eventually. And And so she was always the girl that I would go to of like, okay, what should I be doing?
Yeah.
Like, and so I remember going to her one day, like when I was working like bad hours and like also going out. I was like, the skin is not skinning. And like, I was like, I'm ready to invest in skincare. Just tell me what to do. I'll do it.
Right.
Then she gave me this like really long 10-step routine that I'm sure was great, but I was like, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
And so that was when we kind of like, were like, there's like something there. That was definitely like the original kind of like seed.
Yeah.
And then once I had the marketing agency background, it was like, we were like, okay, like now we actually have very complementary skill sets of, okay, she can do like the product as well as a bit of like the brand. She had built an Instagram following. And I was like, I can do like the marketing and operations and the finance side of things. And so that was kind of how it came about. Yeah.
Yeah. Did it take a lot of, like, how did it, when it came to placing your first order, like, did it take a lot of capital? Did you use savings?
Yeah.
Did you actually, like, raise money right away or, like, borrow some from parents? And then also, like, how long did that take before you actually brought it to market?
Yeah. So we worked, when we, like, made incorporation docs was the end of January or the beginning of February of 2020.
Okay. We all know that time.
Yeah. And so at the time we were like, let's just like we thought we were gonna I remember reading about Glossier and remembering that they had raised $1 million off of like basically the back of a napkin.
Okay.
And I was like, let's do that. And so I remember we made a whole pitch deck, like, and went to people, and then it was in February, and then like the whole world like shut down.
Right.
And I think also like the market wasn't like that anymore. No one was, and we also, Emily Weiss had she had a big blog or whatever. She was still a first time founder, but so we were like, okay, fundraising didn't really work. Everyone was like, build like a minimum viable product and then like come back to us.
Right.
And so then, yeah, basically the entirety. But we really didn't spend, like we did like the minimum order quantity and it was between her and my savings.
Okay.
And we also launched while we were still working full-time jobs. So,
okay.
So that, but it took us a really long time to launch the product.
When did it officially launch?
So we officially launched July of 2021. So
okay.
So like we started, so February 2020 to July 2021. It was like a very long time, to go from idea, and we launched with only 2 SKUs, 2 serums, and yeah, so it was a lot of, the formula is actually a custom formula to us. A lot of people who have skincare brands, especially like celebrity brands, they just kind of slap a name onto an existing, there'll be like contract manufacturers that you can go to. And they're like, okay, here's like a vitamin C serum. Like here's like a list of things that we can have that you can just white label basically. Yeah. Ours, we took the time to do a custom. We tweaked the exact, ingredients that we wanted to have in it, so that's why it took like a much longer period of time, as well as just like us being
the minimalist part. Though I'm so curious, like, do you use both serums?
Yeah, so basically we sell it as the routine, and it's one is Rise and the other one is Rest, so it's a morning and a night serum. And
that's all you use?
Yeah, so
like moisturizer?
I don't use a moisturizer. I use SPF. It doesn't have SPF in it. It does not have SPF in it. So yeah, you add an SPF. We would have loved to do SPF. We didn't have enough money for it. You have to do, it is a very long and like expensive process to do it. So we were like, okay, well, we can't do that. Would have loved to, but basically after a cleanser, that's all you need, and an SPF. And so really how we think about it is, additionally, like all the active ingredients that you kind of need in a skincare routine, you're getting in either the morning and the night. Some of them you double down and get in both, but we really wanted to be like, okay, you don't have to think. Like, because I remember always having like, okay, I hit a vitamin C serum. When should I be using it? Like that's even, it seems stupid, but it's like a question that you have. And like, we wanted to take all the thinking out of it for you.
Yeah. Okay. What about has there ever been a time where you were like, oh, I wish maybe, like, do you use like eye cream or anything else that like would help with the skincare?
Yeah.
Like, how do you keep it so minimal and effective?
Yeah. So we actually launched under eye masks.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I have seen those.
Yeah.
Actually. Okay.
And those I use them with our rest serum. There's definitely times where like I'll use like pimple patches.
Right.
If I'm like especially breaking out. The way we think about it is really like this is your base routine that you can feel good about.
Right.
Like if you have extra steps that you like love, or like you're feeling super dry one day, it's in the winter and you have like dry skin, throw in a moisturizer.
Yeah.
Totally, like you're allowed to.
Makes sense.
But this is just like a base routine that you know is good and you can feel good about, and like protects your skin barrier, helps exfoliation, etc. It's really just like we think of it as like, and if you're being lazy, just do this.
Yeah. Okay, that's good because I definitely have my lazy days.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
How did you get started in getting into retailers though?
That's a great question. Yeah. So because our retailers really happened very recently. Because we had originally we're in 3 retailers other than our direct to consumer site. We are at 13 Loon, Urban Outfitters, and Revolve.
Yeah.
13 Loon happened. They focus on like minority brands, but putting them in. But they have like really great brand selections, and we actually had met the founder of that.
Yeah.
Like at a dinner. So that one was like a connection one. And they brought us on really early. Like obviously no one else kind of had heard of us.
Yeah.
And then Urban and Revolve. Urban actually reached out to us. They saw us. Yeah, they have. I will say Urban does a really good job of finding new brands that they want to carry.
Yeah.
And I've heard of actually a lot of like investors looking at what Urban's buying and being like, oh, like these are going to be the new brands, because Urban finds people very early.
Yeah.
And then Revolve was actually, I had worked with them as an influencer actually.
Okay.
And I remember I was like, it's really a lot of just shooting your shot, because I knew that the girl who was talking to me, like sending me clothes, was not like the beauty buyer.
Right.
But I like sent her my deck. Basically we have like anytime we talk to a reseller, you have like a wholesale deck that shows, basically tells the story of your brand and what your products are.
Right.
Sent her that, and I was like, hey, I know you work with me on a very different basis, but like gave her a little pitch. If you would love to be connected to one of the beauty buyers, if you have an email. She was like, oh, this looks great. Like I'll pass it along and see what happens. And then that's how we got in.
Oh wow. And so how long have you been, I guess, in Urban and Revolve?
Yeah, so we actually launched an Urban and Revolve both in July of this year.
Oh, so super
recent. Like a month ago. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's been crazy.
Wow. And
it's been a busy summer.
How does that work for you guys where especially I feel like this is fun to give the behind the scenes for people who are listening and maybe they are developing a product type of business, but a lot of people don't know, like some brands or like some retailers will have you do, like you handle the fulfillment and some actually handle the fulfillment on their side.
Yeah.
So how has that worked for you guys? And are you guys like operating most of your stuff out of your New York apartments or like how does it work, right?
So from the beginning, since we knew that, so when we first started the brand and when we were selling, Sabrina was in medical school.
Okay.
And I had a full-time job. Like we didn't quit our jobs for like a year and a half into the business. So it wasn't like a snapping like this. We're making millions of dollars and like whatever. It was definitely like, it takes time to like build something, which I think a lot of people don't talk about. But at that point we were like, I know that like if we're fulfilling it ourselves, it's just not going to be done like on time. So that's something we did outsource from the beginning. We were like, we have a warehouse in outside of in Pennsylvania. And they do all like the shipping stuff. So love them. So we don't do that. But for both Urban and Revolve and 13 Loon, actually, all of them, we ship them the product and then they do the fulfillment. So it's not,
okay, gotcha.
So they do it all. They have like different requirements for how it has to be packaged on the way to them. Like Urban is very strict. on how things need to be packaged. You have to put like special barcodes that are their barcodes, and everything has to be in a poly bag and whatever.
Totally.
But yeah, generally it's actually, once you get the PO, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. What was the most stressful part for you guys in onboarding these retailers and like expanding that part of your business? Because I feel like it is such a different scale when you go from purely direct to consumer and then launching into especially 2 very big retailers.
Yeah. So I think for us, it's definitely the stressful part is one, wanting to make sure that they're keeping like that you, as much as Urban and Revolve can drive volume, what a buyer is thinking about if they're going to rebuy is obviously like, it's great to get into these places. The more important thing is to sell through in these places.
Yes.
And so we wanted to make sure that we're actually like supporting those as much as it doesn't make sense at first glance, because I make more money when people buy from my site because they take margin.
Yep.
But I think the most stressful thing was like, are people going to buy it from these websites? And they did. So it was like, so we're happy about like how both of them have been progressing. Both of them have been reordering since, which is like very exciting for us. And I think Revolve is especially exciting for me, because I think that one, they ship us internationally. So we opened up, I think it did actually way better than I thought it was going to. Because I think we've had international reach, but there's like, if you are like in London, the only place you can buy it is Revolve. And not from our own website. So, and I like that because it doesn't cannibalize our sales. Like it is actually a very big lift to ship internationally, and then you have to like deal with like it gets rejected at customs, so that's like really exciting. And I think they have a great like affiliate network, etc., of like influencers who already like link out to their Revolve likes, and so we really wanted to like capitalize on that.
Oh wow, that's super interesting also to hear. Like, so did you guys choose not to sell international directly from your website?
It's a choice. It's like we like, one, there's a lot of like labeling requirements that can be different. We actually abide by all the EU standards, but I think not all of our if you sell in the EU, you have to have, it's just a lot of extra costs. You have to have a point of contact or person of record in the EU. They don't have to be a full-time employee, but like there's like, I think, consulting services to do it, but it's just like we definitely haven't saturated our like US market. So we're like, there's only 2 of us at the company. So it's like, it's just like would be a distraction, I think, at this point. But like, I mean, definitely in the future, like we get so many comments about it.
Right. How do you guys balance the workload between you two? And like now that you guys have been in the business for longer and you guys are both doing it full time now? Yeah. So how do you guys actually take it from here? And and like, I guess like looking forward to like scaling, but then also managing your time as like a young New Yorker and like still like trying to work on this business?
I think so. It's definitely something that is like totally in flux now. Like we're learning as we're going, and but it's definitely evolved over time, because at the beginning both Sabrina and I touched everything, like basically every decision we were like taking together. But at some point that becomes a stopping, like that is a bottleneck. We have to split up things a lot more. So now I basically do most of our like operations stuff of like, I deal with all of our wholesalers, and then I do a lot of obviously the TikTok.
It's
actually funny because we kind of split. Like, she loves doing Instagram. I hate Instagram. Like, Instagram is like my least favorite app. So she does like the Instagram and stuff like that, and we kind of balance it. Is like she does like product development stuff, and I do more kind of like the day-to-day like growth stuff. It's kind of how we split it. But there's still a lot of like, we both really touch the like the branding, etc. But she definitely has more design skills and like hard design skills. Like if there's any like graphics, like she's designing it, which is crazy. We're like trying to get like away from like making every single Instagram post. But work in progress.
Right. How do you guys balance it though as like fun 20-some-year-olds like in the city, right? Like,
Yeah.
and like how do you what's a day in your life? I'm so curious. I love like comparing mine to others because I think sometimes like there's no right or wrong answer. And as an entrepreneur, I think when I first worked like left my corporate job and like went on my own, it felt really weird. Right? Because like you can literally dictate what time you wake up,
Yeah.
if you work out in the morning or midday or evening, and that kind of thing. But I'm always so curious, like what other people do to kind of create flow and structure.
Yeah, it's you mentioned the working out thing. Like I was never a big workout person. I think until like I've become such a bigger workout person now that I work for myself because now it's like a routine that I have.
Yeah.
Like it's like if I don't work out in the morning and it's like I hear myself and I'm like, ew, you suck. Like I hated those people who are like, work out in the morning.
Right.
Like I can't do it without my day without the workout.
Yeah.
But so like I'm also a morning person. It was never the case until actually the year at JP Morgan, me having to get into the office at 7 a.m. Like now I cannot, like I just wake up naturally. Like now it's not as early anymore, but like I don't use an alarm clock and I will wake up at the latest at 7:30.
Oh wow.
And so if like I don't remember the last time I used an alarm clock, and a lot of times I'll just randomly wake up at 6. Like and then I'm just like, okay.
Oh my
gosh. Here's the day.
Yeah. What time do you go to bed though? Like how do you like that's my struggle is if I want to wake up early, I know that I have to go to bed at a reasonable time or else I'll wake up groggy.
Yeah.
That's
I live with like not a lot of sleep. Like I probably go to bed like on average like at midnight.
Okay.
Yeah.
And waking up like 6, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not that bad. I think you can live off that much sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's doable for sure.
And then there's other days where like, and then I feel like I also play catch up a lot. Like it'll be like on the weekends, I like, there are definitely weekends where it's never that I sleep in late. It's always that I'll like pass out at 9. Like I'll be like, I'll go to bed at 9 p.m.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Like during the weekend.
Yeah. Well, because I actually don't really, but I think going out on Friday nights is like the worst night to go out. I like solely believe in going out on like weekdays.
I'm kind of the same.
Because it's not as fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like all the people who I think the worst day of the week to go out is on a Friday night because everyone, like the vibe is not there because there's too many people who are out who are like, I'm out because I will have FOMO if I'm not out.
True.
Like people feel obliged to go out.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's Friday night. I should do something.
Yeah.
But also people are rushing off work. They're not like relaxed yet.
Yeah.
People are like, it is always like a stretch for people to like get there.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, and then it's too busy. All these people who don't know how to go out like are out in like a mess. And it's just not as fun. So I love staying in on a Friday night.
Yeah. No, that's been my thing too. Also just because I don't love the idea of doing what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
And if everyone's like, oh my God, what are you doing Friday night? It's kind of like, maybe I should stay in and like do stuff for my business.
Exactly.
To be honest,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just like a thing because I feel like it is kind of nonstop.
Yeah.
You have your own thing and some weeks are, especially holiday season coming up. It's
like,
sometimes like certain things you have to do for like prep, like
exactly,
just, that's more important than going to the same lounge that you go to.
Exactly. Yeah.
How do you manage dating? I really want to dive into that. Wait, because I also saw that this one video, I think my friend sent this too. It was like, I think it was about, did you talk about high value woman at one point?
I have never used that term.
Okay.
But I think a lot of my content is like somewhat adjacent to that.
Okay. I want to dive into it.
yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts? Okay, dating in New York. Let's hear your thoughts.
I love dating in New York.
Okay.
I think New York is the best city to date in. I'm obsessed. I think I think it's really because people. I also think I am very masculine in like how I date.
Okay.
In that like I'm not caught up. Like I really don't care if someone likes me or not. Like I'm very concerned of whether I like them, and most people don't fit that standard.
Okay.
But I don't mind like going on a date and getting to know someone, and like you can go on a date 6 days a week in New York if you want, if you wanted to.
When I first moved to New York, I think I had 4 dates in like my first week. It was insane. It was unplanned.
Oh,
it was like the most like, all right. I was like, New York is.
I typically average like. There was over the summer I laid off like a little bit because I was like, there were also less people in town, and like the quality of people in town is worse over the summer. But like I remember last like like before that, like in the spring, it was like 3 to 4 dates a week.
Oh my gosh. Have you found anyone in New York that you felt like were long-term worthy?
Yeah, like I think I totally have. And I've actually been single for most of my, or for all of my, it was like a brief like sort of thing, but like I hadn't been except for very recently for a brief period of time, I hadn't been like exclusive with anyone for my entire time in New York. And it was like, and I had two instances where a guy had been like, I want to be like dating or whatever, and I was like, no, like I and for a while I was like, okay, this might be an issue with me. I'm like, it's just no one going to like hit this like weird standard, or not weird standard I have of just like, I think I enjoy being single so much that it takes like a lot for someone to like turn the like to maybe be like
actually be in a relationship with them.
Exactly.
Have you noticed anyone, so when you are on a date and they talk about, or they ask you like, what do you do, right? Have you ever noticed anyone intimidated or feel taken aback by the fact that you're a founder and like you're kind of, and you also like you're doing numbers types of things? Like, I'm just super curious if you ever run into anyone that you felt like was slightly intimidated by you doing that.
It's a good question.
Because I've experienced that when I was, especially in my early days. I know my college ex of 4 years, he definitely, in hindsight, I looked back, there was a level of jealousy that I don't feel like he needed to feel, but I think because he was like 2-3 years older than me, and I think a lot of people like at his work would praise me at this like holiday party, like those like type of things, and I think, I don't know, it was a weird level of jealousy, and I just didn't know that until I was dating people that I've seen both sides, like some that were intimidated, and then for whatever insecure reason they had, maybe it's like they want to make sure they're more successful. I don't know, just shit like that, right? But then also I've had guys who were still working towards their own dreams, but also were super supportive and very just like supportive of what I do, and would always like verbalize that too, like saying like, that's so cool that you do that. And it was like such a different feeling, but I remember feeling what it felt like to have guys that were clearly avoidant about talking about what I do or asking, because they just were, you could tell there was like a level of insecurity.
I think I haven't really like experienced that specifically, but I think it's more, I do think there is an aspect of, I think it was like Victoria Paris said this, of like everyone wants a girl boss until they get a girl boss, and then they don't.
Okay.
And so like I feel like on like first date, or like newly seeing someone, like I've definitely never like experienced, like I don't think I haven't felt that. I also think a part of it is because like I'm a founder, but I'm a founder of like a very like female focused, even though our brand is unisex, but like I think it's something that, not that this is a good thing, but it's like that a lot of like men could like be like, oh, it's not a serious thing, even though it is, but
like they might just write off and like not feel intimidated because of the way they can like label it in their mind. Okay.
But I don't know, it's a good question, and maybe I've just also haven't even been like looking, like I've been so
maybe because you didn't like them enough, so
exactly, like there's never like I will say there's never been it's never been that I've like dated someone who I feel like I've almost only dated people who I thought were more successful than me, so it's like never been a problem.
No, but it's interesting because I think even if the guy is, and maybe sometimes it's just like an age thing or just a maturity thing.
I do always date, like I could never, I'm 26.
Same.
Like I would maybe date someone who's 27, but like probably not. Like I want them to be like 2 years minimum older. I think especially for me, it comes to even more thing than age. It's very hard for me to date someone who's been in the city, like I don't want someone who's moved to New York in the last year or two.
Because it's like so recent.
I'm like, you don't know anything. Like I'm like, all these things that you think are cool are not. Or like I've been doing this for too long. Like and I don't want to be your tour guide for the city. And like I think also Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that makes sense too. I think it's fascinating to observe because I think that's partially why I never dated guys too close in age.
Yeah.
Because part of it is, I mean, the reality is most time guys, they graduate at 22.
Yeah.
They're still dilly-dallying for like the next few years. But then right within like the 2-3 year mark after graduating, I feel like that's when they're like, okay, shit, they get a little more serious in their career. And then they realize they got to actually build a foundation of financial success or stability rather. And then that's kind of why I feel like even when I'm meeting them at that point, either when they're my age or like really close in age, they're often still intimidated like by the growth I've had in my own career where and again, I don't blame them for like wanting to feel at a certain level, but I think that's also like such an internal thing where you don't have to be insecure just because you're not there yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's like more on them than like the girl that they're dating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I totally get that.
Yeah. I was curious. So, okay. So going back to, I know you said like you didn't say high value woman, but like maybe adjacent. And I personally, I'm very over the whole, people often use high value men, high value women. And I kind of,
it's gross to me.
I think it's annoying because, especially with the high value men thing and things that I've seen on like the clips around it, I often think, well, first off, anything high value or rare
doesn't have to say it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, first off, like, that's that. But that's why I think it's funny when a guy's like, well, I'm a high value man. I'm like, really? What makes you as such? And they'll like label all these external reasons. And I'm like, well, anything high value, like a car or a ring, like things that are actually high, cost a lot, right? It's often because of supply and demand.
Yeah.
There's like only very few of those on the market. And what makes something rare of a person is actual intrinsic traits, right? So nowadays, what's more rare? I don't know, loyalty. Right? Like right? So it's like, stop acting like just because you make XYZ money means you're a high value man. These are the clips I'm seeing on like social media. That's what makes me like honestly laugh because I'm like, what makes anything high value is how rare it is to have that. Therefore, it really comes down to like how you are as a person. And if you're replaceable, then you're actually not that high value. But I'm curious, like, what's your take on it for women and like what you kind of share within your content for women to think about in their own approach?
Yeah. So I think my issue with the high value like narrative is I think my opinion is that if you are high value, you will never have to say it because people will know.
Correct.
Yes. And so like even having a word is like dumb. And then I think there's like a recent, like my biggest thing has been, I will say, as much as I love dating in New York, because I think there's a great like quality of men here. One thing that you do have to realize is that there's actually an even better caliber of women here.
Yeah.
In terms of like head on their shoulders. They're like, so many of them are very successful because you have to like make money to like live here.
Yes.
And so many, like, they're just like, I see so many of my friends and I'm like, you guys are such a catch. And as a result of like, there's so many of these women, there's also like there's a lot of competition for like actually good guys.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like that, as a result, you have there's a lot of competition, and I think some like the guys here are so spoiled in terms of like their options. Where am I going with this? I don't know where I was going with this. I think, but like my main thing is that you will never get somewhere by being like, I'm a high value woman. Like you should understand that like I'm a catch. Like I'm a catch. The only like one of my favorite like things is like you will never regret silence of like I'm not saying if someone is abusive to you, like talk, but if you move the fuck on and never speak to them again and I will do this for the tiniest thing. I am like, if someone is not into me, I am not interested. Like I am out. I cut things off probably like more quickly than like I see one thing and it's just like, okay, like I learned what I needed to know. And I'm not into you anymore, and I'll never speak to you again. Like, I'm never waiting for someone's text. I'm never like, ugh, like, why is this guy not texting me? It's like, and then as a result, and I truly think this, as a result, every single guy who's ever done, or like, who I don't speak to always comes back. Whether you want to like go back to that, whatever. Yeah. But it's like, it's truly because that the truest high value way of doing things is that it's having self-respect and moving the fuck on. Yeah. And like, and I also believe that no guy will ever leave you because you're too crazy and because you respected yourself too much. Like, that will never, like, and if they will, like, you don't, like, I remember, like, there was one guy I'd been seeing, and I honestly wasn't that into him. Yeah. But I remember, like, he hugged a girl while we were out, and like, hugged. Friendly. She was being friendly. And I was like, and
you guys were like exclusive?
No, we were not exclusive. No. No, like nothing. Wait, like,
what did you say?
But he just hugged someone in front of me in like a kind of flirty way. And I just left. I left. And he's like, "Why did you leave?" And I was like, "Oh, I just thought you were like I was like, I was like, and he was, I think I said something along the lines of like, you're clearly having a fun time, like, and I'm not that interested anymore." And he was like, "Wait, what do you mean? Like, she's like just a friend or whatever?" And I was like, you did nothing wrong. Like, you were not disrespectful. Like, he was like, I didn't mean to be disrespectful. I was like, you're not disrespectful, but I just know that whoever I'm with is going to be obsessed with me. And like that, you like, on a normal standard, you didn't do anything wrong. Right. But like, and I just learned like a little bit more about you. And I realized that like, I was literally said, I can find the text. It was like, there's no hard feelings. I just realized like, we're probably not a match.
Interesting.
And it wasn't like, I wasn't like, fuck you. I was just like, I'm not attracted to you anymore.
Yeah.
I'm very like, if it's not the one, it's not the one.
So you would prefer, I'm curious, so then would you have a preference that whatever guy you're dating or you're with, like, does not even have casual friendly hugs? No, and I'm curious because well, okay.
It was definitely like, it was a hug, but he was like talking to her, and I was like standing here being like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Okay, so he actually like got into conversation.
Okay, but like, and I could tell that she was very interested. I was like, don't entertain this, like, in front of me.
That makes sense. Okay, so that's good context. No, it's so funny because I think what a lot of people don't understand is there is no right or wrong option in that scenario, but I do agree. And again, especially if you are someone that has a level of self-respect, like you described, it's like you're gonna see that and feel a bit of a turnoff. And I guess it really depends on your level of compassion on whether you'd give him like a shot to like do it over again or you just walk, right? Yeah. But I think that probably comes at a point where it's like, if you were really into him, maybe you'd give, right? But you probably weren't enough to like have that gesture of like, this just want to be clear, like maybe this is like a boundary, it's not cool with me. Yeah. And then like you know, but I think it's funny, it's something I'm learning in my like most recent relationship dynamic is I guess like I have a few like guy friends, or like maybe I would like hug a guy friend, and like he's from Latin America, so this is kind of like part of their culture too. But it was a learning curve for me because I remember like when telling some American girlfriends this, they're like, this is so basic though, it has like nothing to do, right? But it's like kind of understanding and being willing to respect certain people's standards and boundaries, and if they communicate that to you, then you either like, you know, respect that and like own it, or just like you part ways.
Yeah. And I even think just like things, and it's not about like just like interactions with girls, but like also like take you on a night dates and like stuff like that, of like showing that you care, like I think is really important to me, and like less so of like
how do you meet guys in the city? Or just like how do you like what's your like weekly lifestyle of, and like balancing both like the workout stuff and then the going out stuff and then like going on dates, like you said, like back in the spring you had like what, on average 3 dates a week? That's pretty dope.
I think I get set up. I don't know why. Yeah. Maybe I put this energy out into the world, or like I don't know what it is. But like probably because I've also been single for a while. Okay. And so I feel like everyone knows that I'm single. Yeah. Like, so I get set up by friends like all the time.
Okay.
Which that's like the
fun.
best.
That's fun. Yeah, with a mutual friend.
The best.
That's the best for sure.
And then the other ones on dating apps as well.
Yeah. Have you ever met a guy randomly like on a night out and like maybe you thought he was cute and you approached him, or like vice versa? Just like more like even that kind of organic scenario, because I feel like I get a lot of DMs, people asking me, how do you meet people, especially in a city like New York? Like, what are you doing? And I'm kind of known to be a social butterfly in that sense, where I have gone out to clubs a handful of times or lounges, whatever, by myself before, and I'd come back every time with like a new girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or like back when I was more single, like I definitely would have like a date the following week or whatever, and they'd be like, how? And it's literally like, to me, all you do is like make conversation and be warm and nice and like actually interesting to talk to, right?
Yeah.
But like I don't know if that's like your thing.
No, yeah, I feel like I've met definitely a bunch of people out. Oh, actually 100% I can think of people I've met out recently. But I think, like, for me, the one thing that I definitely do is I will actually I'll give my number. Like, if someone like asks you for my number, I like never say no. I always like throw a number. I think you can just, if they text you, ignore them, like, and, like do a little recon and see if they're worth actually getting to know.
Right.
But like and so I always feel, I don't know what it is. Like, and I feel like, I think you just have to, like, if you're having a fun time, people want to like
be around
you. So, and like, I also love going to like house parties or like any time. That's like another thing. I think there's like one video I made of like how to like meet friends in the city. And I will say, this doesn't have to, like, this isn't my era now. Like, I think I like have enough friends, to be honest. But like when I was really like, if like it has to be like, I think it was like you have to have like if you are really like, I'm lonely, I don't have enough friends, like have like a month or two where you're like, this is the friend making month, and like that is going to be a priority for you. And then like what I've learned from doing that is, like, when that era was a thing, like anytime someone invites you to something, especially if it's like you just met someone, they're like, oh, I'm going to this thing next week, like you should come. Even if you had another plan that's like with your better friends that you think will be more fun, prioritize the first like time hangout over anything, because it took a lot for that person to like invite you to that. Even if you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, like that weekend just like doesn't work for me because I'm like whatever, it's, even if that excuse is real, you're not gonna hang out again. Like, if the first hangout,
that is true. That's
and
true.
like those, and if that first hangout went well, that was a friend, and that's a whole nother friend group who you'll meet, etc.
Because I think also too, like, if you think about it from the other perspective, it's like if you're the one reaching out and like offering someone to hang out, or like an opportunity to like go to an event together, and they turn it down, you naturally would feel like, oh, maybe they don't
want to get to know me.
Exactly.
Even if it's a really good excuse.
I agree with that. So that's why, although I will say, even if it's a real reason, like they're actually out of town, for example, I would advise like anyone being on that side of the coin, offer a follow-up time then to hang, just to indicate like it's genuinely, I do want to. You know what I mean?
If you can't make it, you invite them to something next.
100%. That's okay. I love that though. Okay, last few questions. A thought or life lesson you would share with women in early 20s, because we're both 26, and I feel like there's probably a handful of things that I always wanted to hear from, like when I was like 21, and wanted to hear from like a 25 or 26-year-old. Because sometimes, I don't know if you experience this, especially because your mom is also Vietnamese, but there's definitely, on my side and like family, there's such a cultural difference and a bit of a generational difference. So there's just certain things that I feel like hearing from an older sister per se is a lot more relatable than hearing from a mom. So I have a lot of listeners that are like that.
I think for me, and this is advice that I took myself, like and most people like don't believe me anymore, is like, I like growing in high school and like my first year in college, I was extremely shy. I hated it. Like, I liked, and this is gonna sound bad, but I think the first time when I realized that like I was not going to be shy, even though like I'm naturally introverted, was honestly when I never drank in high school, and then I drank in college, and then I was like, one time I was like drunk at a party, and I was like, this is really fun, like to talk to people and like get to know people and like not have this like weird social anxiety of like, oh, they don't want to talk to me, so like shouldn't talk to them.
Right.
And I literally think like that was like the first realization. I was like, oh, I kind of want to live my life in a way that like, because I was like, the benefits of getting to know people and like of being, unfortunately, life rewards extroverts. Like there's nothing we can change about it.
That's true.
That is how life works. Meeting people is like and it's like so fun. You get to like the things that I get to do just because of random people I have met is insane. Like people are like, oh, how do you go to these cool things? Blah, 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 blah. Because I met people.
Yes.
And it's like, like it's
especially in a city like New York.
There
right?
are so many like cool random people that I meet who like invite me to like the sickest shit ever.
Yeah.
Or like, or have like opportunities for my business and like stuff like that. Like it's like even I think of back to Urban Outfitters, they reached out to us, but they reached out to us through someone who knew us. They were like, she connected us.
Yeah.
But like, had I not met that girl who the urban people would be like, oh, do you know the 4am people? Like they probably would have never emailed me.
Yeah.
So and what made me like switch this like opinion of like, okay, it is worth the extra, like there's always like the nagging of like social anxiety like in the back of my like head of like I hate this, like I can just leave.
Right.
Like just think of it as like you will benefit, like the benefits way outweigh this like nagging in the back of your head. And to like really just like enjoy that. It does not benefit you to to let that social anxiety like take over.
I agree. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that bring that up too, is like being nervous or scared about how they look or how they appear and like if they seem to fit in and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's all trial and error. Like you have to try it the first time and like put yourself out there in order to receive that.
Yeah.
But there's for me been long-term benefits for sure. And just even like the smallest things, especially in nightlife, like especially when I've gone out by myself, I know a lot of people at the door and managers and like owners. And I am a nightlife girl because I love house music. But that came from going out by myself because like they easily remember my face.
And
you know what I mean?
The best thing actually, especially if you're a girl, which I assume most of your audience is, like no door person says no to a girl by herself.
1000%.
You can get into the hardest fucking club in New York if you are alone.
Alone.
You go up to 100%. The door and you say, hey, it's just me. I'm meeting my friends inside.
Yeah.
You don't have to have friends inside. You can get into any place on earth.
Yes.
If you are a girl by yourself.
And if you're going alone, do not wait in the fucking line or like wait in the back.
You go straight to the
door
and you say, hey, my friends are inside. I'm just meeting with them. Can I come in?
Yeah.
No door guy will say no.
Yeah, no, 100%. And they just like, especially if you look cute and like you're just kind, they're like, what? They don't even want you to be out there by yourself because there's like this weird empathy and there's like, they're definitely like very, very sweet every time if I'm by myself and I become friends with a lot of them. But like, they're just like, oh, like, baby girl, who are you with? Or I'm like, I'm literally by myself. And it's like an artist I want to see, but none of my friends like house music. And it's like, okay, whatever, I'm going.
But
it's just like so. It's such a hack.
Yeah.
It is such a hack. The bigger groups are harder.
Yeah. No, you gotta say no. You gotta say, but you can't say like, you just like, I don't like a big pregame. The big pregame, like they're like, oh, we're having a pregame at my apartment. No, because I don't want to go to that.
Yeah.
Because then we'll all have to be like, where do we want to go? And then it'll be awkward.
Right.
It'll be either we go to the worst place on earth.
Right.
Or and maybe we don't even all get into the worst place on earth, unfortunately. Like, that's how New York is.
Yep.
And you have to have this awkward, like, well, see ya. Or you're like, okay, well, like, we're all standing outside. Now we have to find somewhere else that's not going to let us all in. Like, it's like a horrible experience.
Yeah, because groups are just not actually like, the easiest.
Get like a 3-person drinks.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
Before, and then meet up with people out together. Like, once they're inside.
I agree. Okay. 2 questions from the card game, which I also have one for you.
Amazing.
First one, would you rather be crazy rich or deeply in love?
Deeply in love for sure.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that like just a natural instinct for you, or if like have you ever thought about that where if you could have only one or the other?
I think like
Have you been in love before?
Like I think I like was like I dated my like boyfriend from like high school into college. We dated for like 4 years, 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah.
But like I think I also like every relationship I've had like 2 big relationships, and every single one, like it was very mutual upon the breakup. And I think it was because it was like a long time coming when we did break up. So it was like you were kind of over it and like less sad. Like it wasn't so, and it's weird because then now I'm like, oh, like I can't even imagine being in love with that person. But I feel like I probably was.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like so far removed from them. But I think my parents are so, and like they're still together, and they've been together for whatever, 29 or so years. And so it's like I can't like imagine, like they are just very, all they do is like hang out with each other. Like I'll go on like a mother-daughter trip with my mom, and she'll be like, "Can we FaceTime dad? Let's FaceTime dad." I'm like, "You spent every day with him." Like, "Don't you think dad looks like Brad Pitt?" And I'm like I'm glad that he does in your mind.
Wow, that's so funny. How do you think, just from an observation standpoint, how do you think that they've maintained that kind of connection for so long? If like just from an observer, like is it like a certain values or like a common principles? It's something I always love to ask. Like when I see successful couples, I'm always so curious in their words, like why do they think they're still going so strong?
I think they're very much like they like go to the beat of their own drum. Like they actually like they left like they actually live in Puerto Rico now, which is very random, but they left California, and because they were like, oh, I don't like this, like everyone's like keeping up with the Joneses, like wanting to see like the town gossip and like wants like fancy things. Like they live like on like, I mean it's beautiful, but like they live like off of a dirt road in Puerto Rico. It's on the now it's a they're building like a little beach house. But like there's no one nearby. Like it's very much like they just like being like themselves and like playing sports.
Yeah, and you just feel like it's because they both kept their own individuality, just
exactly.
like doing what they want. And, okay, yeah. No, I feel like some people cave. You know what I mean? They do the whole like get a house in the suburbs. Shit, like not my thing. Okay, if you could tell your younger self from 5 years ago a piece of advice, what would it be? So I guess when you were 21.
I'm just like, it'll all work out. Like it's like nothing. Like I think and I think I've learned this like over the years, but I think back to like especially in college, I was like so stressed about like having the best, like, and I feel like when you stress less about like being the best is when you become the best. And like also not being afraid to go your own path. Like that's I think so many people get so competitive with other people, and the reason why they get competitive is because like you're like, oh, like I'm doing this too, and they're doing this, and so like if you go on your own path, there's like actually no competition. It's actually quite freeing. Like there's no one else who I'm like, oh, who's like has a skincare brand, and it's also, I mean, I guess maybe there are more, but it's like my story is just so different.
Right.
And, like I've never like there's
and you're just gonna be like in your own category.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think that's why people get afraid, is like if you actually do the thing that you want to do, which ends up being like a unique path, it's going to be one of those high value, like that's just it's like funny. Like the irony is like when you do actually what's true to you, and like that showcases the rare and unique qualities about who you are, what your brand is, and like the business aspect. That's exactly what makes you stand out of a crowd. Especially like I'm sure in like the skincare realm, like the industry, there's so many. It's like, why this one?
Exactly. And I've never felt like I'm actually so friends with so many like skincare brand founders or beauty brand founders, and it's like shockingly like not competitive. Like the relationship, even like there's like some things that we wouldn't share. Like I'm not going to tell them who my lab is because like that is like whatever. But there's definitely a lot of things that we do share, and I think it's like the abundance mindset of like my thing is like everyone has skin, and there's like billions of people in the world. Like we can all
totally
sell skincare to different people.
Exactly. Okay. Final 2 questions. Book recommendation? Any that comes to mind?
Oh, I recently read So I recently read The Guest by Emma Cline, I think, and it was really good. It was like a good beach read.
Okay.
But my favorite book of all time, and I've read it a million times, is How to Murder Your Life by Kat Marnell.
Okay.
Amazing,
Is that fiction?
amazing book. No, it's this girl's biography. She's insane, but like iconic. She was actually when we built 4am, I was like, we're building it for Kat Marnell. Like she's like my number one. She's a brilliant writer, and she came to New York, and she was like working at like Lucky magazine, worked at like a bunch of magazines, but was also horrifically addicted to drugs. And was like, but like was going to like all the parties, but like trashed and like truly ruined her life. But like she's like just a mess, and like it's just so like it's like it's good because usually people have really crazy lives who have a biography, who like do an autobiography or like a memoirs, the word. When they write a memoir, usually like they're not a great writer, but she's like was a really great, like that's how she like was getting away with all these things, because her writing was so good, like for all these magazines and stuff like that. Like she was showing up to events like with like lipstick down her face, like looking a mess.
Oh wow.
But she's like one of the few people who has like a memoir who has a really crazy life, but is also a good writer. So it's like,
oh, okay.
It's great.
She was able to like back up what she,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, last question, something I ask every guest, but in reflection of your life and like just you building 4am skincare and like everything you've experienced, what would you say ultimately fulfills you in life?
I actually think it's like having like a balance of all the things. Like I feel like at the end of the day, like me and my co-founders say this all the time when we're stressed. It's like we're not curing cancer. Like we're selling skincare. It's like not. I mean, we had SPF maybe, but like no.
Right.
Like
right.
it is, none of it is that serious. And like this, even like we were like, well, if like this doesn't work out, like you can get a job. Like none of this is the end of the world. Like so really just like what I really love about my life is like right now is that like I feel like I have really great friends. I have a good business. I'm like doing fun things. Like I think like all those things together is like what fulfills me for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I think balance is important. I think something I especially try to do, at 26. I think like you're only this age once. So having a little bit of everything, especially when you live in a city like New York, is important.
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, where can everyone find you? Share your social media, your Instagram, TikTok, your brand.
Yeah. My Instagram, all my handles are just my Jade Beguelin, Beguelin, JadeBeguelin. But and then more importantly, follow 4am Skin, the number 4am Skin, SKIN.
Amazing. Well, we will link that in the show notes, and I'm excited for everyone to check it out.
Awesome.
Yay.
Same here.
Thank you.